Hello and welcome. Today we're looking at the daily readings for August 21st, 2025. And we've got four texts that take us on this incredible journey, from a magnificent temple of bronze and gold all the way to the farthest corners of the earth. Now, on the surface, they might not seem connected, but they actually tell one single, powerful, and absolutely foundational story. So let's explore it together. So here's the big question that really ties all of this together. Where does God meet with humanity? I mean, really meet. Is it in a certain building? Is it through a specific set of rules? Is it in a particular person? Each of these texts we're looking at today gives us a piece of the answer. And it's an answer that unfolds, piece by piece, to become something absolutely central to the Christian faith. All right, here's our game plan. We're going to start with Solomon's incredible temple, a true house of bronze and gold. Then we'll shift gears and look at the kind of wisdom you'd need to actually live in God's presence. After that, we hit the absolute turning point of the whole story, the anointing and the agony of Jesus. And finally, we'll see how this whole thing just explodes into a light for all the nations. Okay, let's dive in with 1 Kings chapter 7. We find ourselves with King Solomon right at the absolute peak of Israel's power and influence. And he's attempting something that is just extraordinary. He's going to build a permanent physical home for the God of the universe. And the sheer scale of this project is, well, it's just staggering. Just to give you a sense of what we're talking about, one of the buildings, the Palace of the Forest of Lebanon, was 150 feet long. That's half a football field, built with these massive imported cedar beams. And then, guarding the entrance to the temple, you have these two colossal bronze pillars, each one soaring 27 feet into the air. I mean, they're sending a very clear message of power and majesty before you even walk in. And inside, there was this massive bronze basin they called the sea that could hold over 11,000 gallons of water. The Bible actually says the total weight of all the bronze use was so immense it couldn't even be measured. This was humanity's absolute best shot at creating a worthy home for God. But you know, this wasn't just about being big and impressive. It was packed with meaning. Those two giant pillars, they were given names. Jachin, which means he establishes, and Boaz, which means in him is strength. So think about that. Before you even set foot inside, the building itself is preaching to you. It is God who establishes you, and it is in him that you find your strength. Okay, so you've built this magnificent, breathtaking house for God. That's great. But it brings up a whole new question, right? What kind of person can actually live in God's presence? Our next reading from Proverbs 25 gives us a peek into the kind of character required for life in the king's court, which is really a picture of life in God's court. And the Proverbs give us this really powerful contrast. On the one hand, wisdom, like timely advice, is described as beautiful and valuable, like golden apples in a silver basket. But on the other hand, folly, especially a lack of self-control, leaves a person totally defenseless and vulnerable, just like a city whose walls have been smashed down. The point is pretty clear. To be in God's presence requires an inner architecture that's just as beautiful and well-ordered as that outer temple. And this is where everything changes. We get to Mark chapter 14, and it is the absolute heart of our story for today. Everything we've talked about so far, this idea of a physical house for God, the need for human wisdom, it's all about to be completely turned on its head and redefined in the person of Jesus. Mark 14 just drops us right into Jesus' final gut-wrenching hours. And notice what happens at his trial. The main accusation they throw at him is that he threatened to destroy the temple. His accusers even quote him, but they totally miss the point. See, Jesus wasn't talking about a building made of stone and bronze. He was talking about his own body. He was the true temple, the real meeting place between God and humanity. And in the Garden of Gethsemane, we just get this raw look at the personal cost of this. In this moment of deep human agony, Jesus completely submits his will to the Father's. This is that perfect inner architecture that Proverbs was pointing towards, a total obedience and trust that makes him not just the perfect sacrifice, but the very place where we can finally truly meet God. And the contrast with his closest friends is it's stark. While Jesus is praying, what are they doing? They're sleeping. While he's facing down his accusers, they run, and they deny even knowing him. When he's asked who he is, Jesus declares, "I am," the holy name of God, while they're hiding in fear. He alone, all by himself, shows the perfect faithfulness to be the true temple that Solomon's amazing structure could only ever point toward. Okay, so if Jesus is the new temple, the true meeting place, what now? What happens next? Well, our final reading from Acts chapter 13 gives us this absolutely incredible answer. God's presence doesn't stay confined to just one person. It expands through his people out into the entire world. So the Apostle Paul, he stands up in a city called Antioch, and he basically retells the highlight reel of Israel's story. He connects all the dots, showing how God's plan from the very beginning was always leading to Jesus. And Paul explains that because of Jesus' death and resurrection, something is now available that never was before: true, complete, total forgiveness of sins. And then comes this history-making moment. Paul says that this message, this good news, it came first to the Jewish people. But since many of them rejected it, he declares this turn that will literally change the world. The good news will now be offered to the Gentiles, to all the non-Jewish nations. The message wasn't just for one people group anymore. It was for everybody. And to back this up, Paul quotes the prophet Isaiah. See, this wasn't some new plan B. Paul is showing that this was God's intention all along. The new living temple, which is the community of people who follow Jesus, is meant to be a light, bringing the news of salvation to the farthest corners of the earth. So let's just pull back and trace that journey one last time because it's incredible. Our 4 readings show this amazing progression. The meeting place between God and humanity moves from a physical place, that magnificent temple, to a perfect person, Jesus Christ himself. And then finally to a global people, the church, a living, breathing temple filled with God's own spirit. That is the grand story these texts tell when you put them all together. And this whole journey leaves us with a really big, really personal question. If we, the church, his people, are now the place where the world is meant to meet God, then how are we doing? How are my words? How are my actions, my relationships? How are they helping to build this living temple today? That's the challenge these ancient readings bring right to our doorstep right now.